Welcome, folks, to our first PyMCon Web Series interview for our first contributor, which is Dante Gates here. He is going to talk about data generating processes in his first event, and you will find all the details of what he's doing on PyMCon.com and Discourse, where he's posted a wonderful collab, and there's a lot of discussion going on. Again, really want to thank Dante for being the pioneer here, the first data point in PyMCon Web Series, starting this off strong. If you're interested in the web series, we're going to have more events in this particular run. And also the call for proposals is constantly open. So if you have any ideas you would like to submit or share with the community as a whole, go ahead to the CFP form and throw it in. But that's enough of an introduction for PyMCon. I want to throw it over to you, Dante. Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, sure. So obviously also thanks for having me. This is really cool to be a part of PyMCon. So I live in Philadelphia. I'm a data scientist here. I've been doing this for about 8 or 9 years now. And I've worked in a few different fields such as healthcare, finance, ad tech, and I'm back in finance now at a company called PerPay. It's a small little startup based out of Philadelphia where we're helping underserved consumers build credit.
Got it. And Dante, with this extensive background and now you being here at PerPay, where did you start with Bayesian statistics and how did you come to find that this was the mathematics that interested you?
Yeah, so I first saw it probably my first year working in healthcare. I think a coworker had shown me like a hierarchical partial pooling model. And I remember thinking that was really interesting because it was more than just simple estimations of a distribution like I had seen in my education, but it was sort of estimating even more of that, or more than that, estimating like a family of distributions and being able to kind of compensate for some of the populations not having as much data as others. So I thought that was really cool in the sense that it was flexible. And then I feel like I saw, there was like a conspiracy of other things I saw around the same time. Another friend from school had introduced me to Jake Vanderplas's talk about Bayesianism versus frequentism. And I remember being like, we both watched it and looked at each other and said, I don't think I really know what this whole Bayesian thing's about, but I want to find out more. So yeah, that kind of set me on a trajectory of just learning more about it.
And so after you got introduced to the general idea of Bayesian thinking, both through work and Jake Vanderplas's talk, how did you stumble across PyMC in particular?
Yeah, so PyMC was the first package that I had been shown for doing Bayesian inference. And then honestly, I never looked back. I never really came across anything that I couldn't use it for. And so, yeah, I've been using it for a while now, as we talked about before we started filming this. That was all the way back when the PyMC 2 days. So it's been cool to kind of be watching from a distance as the packages progressed. I mean, the way it makes things so simple for inference and also the flexibility it has in the past being built on top of Theano and stuff like that. I mean, the straightforward stuff is super simple, super user-friendly, but it's also very customizable.
I'm glad it's been serving you through multiple APIs and in multiple backends. Moving on to now, a different part of the Bayesian sort of philosophy. Your talk is on the data generating process. And of course, there's all the mathematics and computation. There's all the integrals and derivatives. What inspired you to submit a proposal to the PyMCon Web Series when we had never had one before? And why the topic of data generating processes?
Yeah, so when I saw the PyMCon call for proposals was open, it was kind of a no-brainer to just submit a proposal for a talk. And I didn't imagine that I would actually get selected. I figured there'd be lots of submissions and whatnot, but I mean, it's cool to be giving a talk now. But the topic's something I've been thinking about for a while. So data generating processes, but particularly within a context where you really know or are familiar with what the data generating process actually is. So for example, in industry, there's lots of different problems I've been able to apply that sort of concept of having a firm idea of what the structure of the underlying data generating process is, because it's basically your business model. It's how inputs and outputs are flowing through your business. So you know what a lot of the constraints and interactions are. And just being able to encode that mathematically is a super useful tool.
I completely agree. I think that's one thing that I really enjoyed for me when I got into Bayesian statistics was that you have to think through your data generating process and you can represented in the model. And I didn't find that in like machine learning methods or classical statistical tests. So fully agree with you there. But one thing I want to point out, a slight correction, is that there were many submissions to PiMCon, and yours rose definitely close to the top, or to the top, which is why you were selected. So thank you so much for adding something there. So part of PiMCon, in addition to the code and the folks that are speaking, are the community. So it's the people that are watching this video. For folks that are starting out with Bayesian statistics or are just coming to PiMCon, any words of wisdom or thoughts for them?
One thing that I think is really advantageous in the age that we're living in is just how much good information is out there. So maybe I'd just like pass along a couple of the things that I've really learned from. So definitely following things that Andrew Gelman writes has been super helpful. The podcast, Learning Bayesian Statistics, the host is also PiMC developer, I believe, right?
Yes.
Alex Andorra.
Yeah.
That's actually the podcast that really got me, that put the language of data generating process to some of the concepts that I had been familiar with just through practice. But I discovered that about, I don't know, a year and a half ago and started binging a bunch of episodes. And it seemed like the idea of a data generating process and prior predictive checks and things like that just kept popping up in almost every other episode. But that's a great resource. And actually, while I was working on the talk for this conference, somebody had pointed me to the PiMC examples gallery, which has a lot of really good information in there as well. So I would just encourage people to check out some of those resources.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that wisdom with the community. And thank you for putting together the talk and notebook and all this knowledge around data generating processes for people to use. For folks watching, we'll put the link to Dante's entire body of work in the description. That'll be the discourse post that has all the community discussion, his collab, and his actual synchronous event, which will be him answering questions and answers and anything else related to Dante's talk. So you'll have that all just below this video. So Dante, thank you again for taking the time out in many ways to give back again to the community. And for everyone watching, I hope you enjoyed PiMCon. Dante's starting this off strong, and I believe you're going to love all the other events that are coming after this. So we'll see you there.